Good afternoon, everybody. This is Mellissa Thomas of Florida National News coming to you with the FNN Business Talk. It is Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. So thank you so much for tuning in. And for today's show, we're going to be talking with the founder and owner and CEO, all around boss man of Capital Fundings, Alex Bogumil. So let me share a little bit about Alex for you guys before we get into the interview. Now, first bit to know, this wasn't in the bio, but I did find out on LinkedIn, and congrats to Alex on this, but he's actually a UCF Knight, so hashtag go Knights. He graduated back in 1997 with a Bachelor of Science in Finance, but he is the founder of Capital Fundings, LLC. He specializes in buy, fix, and sell real estate loans, leveraging his 12 plus years of experience in marketing expertise to make real estate investors profitable. He built an 8-figure business in 3 years, which is amazing. We'll talk about that during the interview, with forward thinking and dynamic strategy while developing one of the most sought after reputable firms in the Orlando area. His ability to build trust with his clients has led to the most 5-star reviews of any lender in Orlando and recognition as a top 25 realtor. He has personally renovated over 50 single-family residences for a value of $15 million. And with a keen eye for identifying profitable projects, he has bought and sold over 500 investment properties, totaling over $90 million. So this is a man that is no stranger to hustle. And on top of that, and we'll talk about this in the interview as well, he credits his level of integrity and grit from being a single father to his 2 children, and he works diligently for their future. And he knows a lot about an ever-changing market, so we'll get into that as well, particularly in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has practically upended business as we know it. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Alex Bogumil to the show. Welcome, Alex. How's it going?
It's going great. Boss man, I like that introduction. I'm going to have to use that around the office if we get back there. Thank you. It's good to be here. Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. Yeah, and thank you for taking the time to be here. So, firstly, I do want to talk about that sort of growth that you saw in your company, being able to build it up to an 8-figure business within 3 years. And usually 3 years is that sort of red flag time frame for any business. They say businesses usually die within 2 to 5. So kind of talk about how you were able to build up your company.
Yeah, so I appreciate the UCF shout out too. So I grew up here in Orlando, and I had the corporate finance education at UCF. I moved away out of Orlando for about 8-9 years, doing a lot of corporate finance stuff and treasury functions and learning about like debt markets and stuff like that. I got sick of the corporate world. It was not how I wanted to be, tethered to a desk. All my friends were back here that I went to school with in Orlando, doing investment properties, buying and selling them, renovating them, keeping them as rentals. And they were all doing really, really well. And I sat back and I said, I'm smarter than these guys. I know more than these guys. Why are they making a ton of money? And I'm sitting here slaving away at the corporate offices and doing well, but not as well as they were. So I made my way back to Orlando, and I started working with my one of my best friends, Mark, who owned an investment real estate company, and he would basically find investment properties for investors, mark them up a little, and then sell them to them. So I moved back here, and we did a lot of that for years. It was right around 2008, 2007, 2008, and the market was falling apart. That's when all the foreclosures hit. You probably remember that. As we were talking earlier, it really hit the west side of Orlando really, really bad. It hit all of Orlando really, really bad, but we bought a lot of properties at the auctions. All of a sudden, there was this huge flood of investment properties through foreclosures, and nobody was there to buy them. So we bought and sold a lot of them and sold them to a lot of our investors. And in the process, I got to know a lot of investors. I got to know Orlando really, really well. I got to understand values. I got to understand the process of transactions. I got to understand a little bit about the loans. Most of our
Mm-hmm.
borrowers most of our investors at that point were cash. But it was, you go look at 10 properties a day, you buy and sell 5 a week, and there was a lot of action. I was specifically on the west side of Orlando, but I also did a lot in East Orlando. We went out to Deltona. We covered a lot of Orlando. So I had from 2007-8 till 2013, 2014, thousands of transactions. And it was, as you say, a hustle. It was really getting out there, looking at houses, sending offers, just busy, 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 busy. But it was great. And along the way, I started buying a couple properties here and there to renovate myself.
Mm-hmm.
And, when we'd renovate them, sell them. And I would borrow money from my older brother, who is some corporate CEO guru of the world. So I would borrow money from him. And then I'd have a couple friends like, hey, could you maybe get some money from my brother? And I'd say, sure, let me ask. And so I'd put together a loan. And so I learned a little bit about the lending side of things. I already had the finance background, and I knew real estate wasn't, what I was at school for. So finance was. So I always wanted to and enjoyed the banking world. It's kind of cool to me where you can borrow money at one rate and lend it out at another. So I started doing that, and I just said, hey, you know what? I could do this, and a lot of the people that were getting loans, they were getting really crappy service. The rates were really high. The service stunk. The people, the borrowers or the investors had nothing but bad things to say about their lenders. So I was like, I could do this. So I went out, I got my license. We started really, really small at first. And then we had a huge investor background because we knew a lot of the investors in Orlando, and then a lot of the little investment companies that were buying and selling for investors. We knew them because they practically, worked for Mark at one point. So we knew a lot of the base in Orlando. And so we just started offering the loans and just really focused on getting approvals, getting quick turnarounds, and making sure our money was there at closing. So we got a really good reputation. People liked us, and we were just a big step better than what was out there. I mean, I remember sitting there going, I can do this way better than they're doing it. And so that kind of just I was like, I'm already doing it on a small scale. And so I just put everything together. I didn't tell anyone. I just went out, got my license. I went out, I put together all the documentation for the loans. I talked to some attorneys, I talked to some title companies, and put it all together. And, it's just really grown. We've been very fortunate that it's grown, but we've always just, we've had such a good background as investors ourselves. We've always felt like I can contribute to your success because I can help you. I know values. I know if you're paying too much for this trade. I know if that area is a good area to invest in, if you're going to get a lot of action when you renovate it. So we just brought a lot to the table, capital fundings for our investors, for our borrowers, and they spread the word. And, for me, it's always been, I could grow a lot more if I had more capital. So we never really even marketed capital fundings. It was just organic growth from the service we provided. And, right now our portfolio is about 65% repeat borrowers. So we don't really have to focus on going out there and finding new borrowers. Now we are, with the pandemic, we've had some time to do some strategic thinking, and, we do want to grow. We always focused on Orlando. That was our main area. I didn't want to go out of Orlando. The market has shifted in Orlando. There's not as much inventory and investment properties. Now you see people buying investment properties that are going out to the outskirts of Orlando, to the beaches, to the coast, to Tampa. Right. So we've had to kind of grow with the market, and we want to grow with the market. So that's kind of where we're headed, to like a Tampa, and just to provide the same service that we do here in Orlando in Tampa. Tampa's a very similar market to Orlando, almost even stronger than Orlando. So, that's kind of where we see ourselves going as far as our growth. But, for me, I say us a lot because Mark is a really big part in the startup of the lending company. But for us, Capital Fundings was an evolution of the investment company where we bought and sold.
You got a guest.
Excuse me. This is life now. He just realized I gave them all a warning. There's two of them back there, but that's the
yeah.
So anyways, so Capital Fundings was really just an evolution of the investment company because we had such a really good background with our investors, and people need money. And it's funny when you tell people, "Hey, I've got money," they start coming to you. They're like, especially. In Orlando, especially, and throughout the U.S., but Orlando, the prices have gone up dramatically.
Right.
In 2008, we were buying houses on the west side, little ranch houses for $35,000. That house now is $100,000 in the same condition. Distressed, where it needs a full renovation. So people now that could buy cash need maybe some help when they're buying houses as investments. And so that's where we kind of come in. They don't have enough money, we'll lend you money. Or you want to do 3 or 4 projects at a time, we'll lend you money so you can do that. So you don't need as much capital. So that's, as the markets change, as prices have continued to increase, people have come to us saying, hey, we need some money to continue investing in property, real estate.
Gotcha. That was a mouthful. That's actually a perfect.
I just covered 12 years and
yes,
10 minutes. So
absolutely. And thank you for sharing that journey with us, because it gives us a broader picture, or a more detailed picture, really, of where you are now and what you specialize in with Capital Fundings. So we're going to get into a little bit more of that, guys, if you're watching. Okay. So we're going to take a quick commercial break and come right back. So be sure to stay tuned.
It takes experience to know the difference in property values. For example, this business is not the same as this business. And this house is definitely not the same as this house. And this, well, this is definitely not the same as this. And that's why it's important to have someone who understands true property appraisals to help our community grow, while making sure everyone pays their fair share. Because experience matters. Re-elect Rick Singh for Orange County Property Appraiser.
All right, guys, welcome back. We are back with Alex Bogumil, who is the founder and CEO of Capital Fundings, LLC. So before we get into the details about Capital Fundings, I did want to find out from you, like, along that particular journey, what were some of the pitfalls that you learned along the way in terms of what to avoid, or possible, key mistakes that you probably learned from, or maybe you saw other people make and you're like, oh, let me make sure not to do that. Kind of just share that.
I mean, there's been a lot, one thing I've always been big on is pay attention to the details, a lot of the stuff I learned in the beginning of doing the investment properties, helped me, you do a transaction, you have a HUD statement, learn it, understand it, because you become the source of information. And a lot of people don't know everything. And when you're helping them through a transaction, they're going to lean on you. So if you're an expert, at what you're doing, people will come to you because you're going to help them, and people want help. People need help. Right. So, pay attention to the details, try to be an expert at what you're doing, understanding every single little aspect of what it is you do. And there's a lot of value when somebody is dealing with you and they know this guy knows what he's talking about. That's paying attention to details and becoming an expert will go a long way. And no matter what you do.
Very true. So
pitfalls, there's, actually in the last couple of years with my business, I used to have a friend who would say, if you have one, you have none. And that kind of means if you're relying on just one person for a certain aspect of your business, what happens if they just wake up one day and say, I'm out? And that can really throw a big wrench into what you're trying to accomplish. So if you have one, you have none. So find multiple sources of whatever it is you're trying to do. Maybe you're an investor that renovates houses and you've got just one contractor. Well, what if that guy goes away? Then your whole business and how you make money is now shut down. So try to have a backup. If you have one, you have none.
That was a bar alert for everybody that was watching.
If you have one, you have none. I'm still working on it, so.
Absolutely. So with Capital Fundings LLC, kind of talk about how you guys provide those loans for real estate investors, because you kind of niche and specialize in fix and flip, right? Like that's the only.
Yeah, we're really narrowly focused. It's right now it's just fix and flip loans. A lot of people call us hard money lenders. A lot of hard money lenders are going to offer rental property rates too, and I can broker those loans out. If you came to me and said, I've got a loan that's coming due and there's a tenant in my property and I just want to refinance out of it, we can broker those loans out to people that'll get it done. But we just focus on the fix and flip loans. It's just been our niche. It's kind of what we think we do really, really well. And we want to do that really, really well. I have talked with a guy about coming on and providing the whole breadth of mortgage loans, for a conventional homeowner, for a refinance. But we're not there yet. And, that's not my focus. There's still a lot of stuff I want to do with Capital Fundings on the fix and flip side as well, too. Before we jump off into, trying to take on a lot of new stuff. But our process is simple. We usually have a lot of people are referrals, or they've done research on the web and they see Capital Fundings and they see other lenders and they see that we've got really good reviews and we've got a lot of them. And so they give me a call, and when they call and they talk to me. But it's, we usually talk about the property they're looking to purchase, how much they need, the condition of it, what renovations they want to do. And then, we go over some numbers, and if they seem to work, I'll send them to the website where they do a really quick application. Investment lending is primarily asset-based driven. So what I'm lending on is the asset, not so much the person. Okay. So credit doesn't come as much into play. Although right now there's an emphasis on credit with the pandemic. People are trying to make sure they're making loans to good borrowers because there's a lot of uncertainty out there. We don't know where values are, where they're going, or when this is going to end. So, right. But a year ago, we're primarily lending on the asset. So we want to understand the asset. We want to understand the values. For a borrower, we look at how much cash do you have? How much do you have the ability to get? What's your experience? Have you done a project before? And that goes a long way. And then, we just look at the structure that you're going to buy the property in, the contracts, a few other things. And then, we're ready to go. We put our loan docs together. We underwrite the property. We look at the values. And it's a quick process, which kind of helps us stand out where a lot of others take 2 weeks. We can get it done in a few days.
Wow.
Sometimes a day, on average, maybe 5 days. But, so that's going to keep people coming back. But that's, the process is super simple. The application is really easy. The main component is, can you get enough capital for the down payment and to start the renovation? Because we'll lend you money to renovate the property as well. But we want to make sure you've got enough to get through the project, because the one thing we like to consider ourselves partners with our borrowers, because we just want to make sure that, hey, we're not just making a loan to collect a fee or to collect interest, but we're going to have a successful project for the borrower where they're going to make money. Because if they don't make money, they're never going to renovate another property again. If they do make money and we can provide value to them and they have a good experience with us, they're going to come back to us. So, it's a simple process. It's usually a phone call and an application. And then we collect a few pieces of information, and then we talk to the title company, and we're ready to go.
Quick add-on to that, or kind of a follow-up question to that. Is there a minimum cash contribution expected from the borrower?
So you can find borrowers that are anywhere from, let's say you're buying a renovation property for $100,000.
Mhm.
and the repairs are $30,000. And you think after it's done, it's going to be worth, for easy math, $200,000. So you're going to make some money. So on that $100,000, we will lend you up to 80% of that. So we would request you bring 20%. So for every $100,000, $20,000. That's to show that you have some skin in the game, as you will, and that you're not going to walk away from this property, because you're taking a distressed property and we're also giving you money for the repairs. So if we take it back, you may have put $15,000, $20,000 in the property and it didn't increase the value at all because you're not done with the renovations or you did a bad renovation. So we want to make sure we're secure with our investors' money. But we also, want to make sure that our borrowers aren't just going to walk away from a deal, that they're going to see it through the end. And we're there to help them to make sure that they see it through the end, through inspections and constant conversation and stuff like that. So 20%. Now you can find borrowers from 35, they request 35% up to 10%. There are people that will go up to 10%. But it's always going to be something. I don't know anybody that's saying, hey, here's 100% of the money and let me give you money for the renovations. Good luck. You're going to get into trouble with that. So it really is a partnership where everyone needs to be on the same page and everyone needs to be in it, a win-win for everybody,
Right. And so in order to facilitate that, do you guys have, how large is your team? And is it where you assign like members of your team to specific borrowers? Like how does the accountability work?
Yeah. So my investors, the people that we sell the loans to after we make them, they always want me to underwrite the property just because they think I know Orlando really well and they feel comfort with that. So I'll underwrite everything. It goes through a secondary review. And then once we fund it, I kind of handle the treasury stuff too, the sending of money here and there. Once we fund it, we service the loan. And I've got a few girls that do marketing, that do accounting, and the servicing stuff. And I'll probably bring on a portfolio manager here soon.
Gotcha.
So she can really manage the portfolio for our investors, for our borrowers, and for me to, for management as well. So we can do it with a few people. We've got about 5 people right now working for us.
And how involved does CAP funding get in the renovations process? You guys only provide the funding, or do you guys actually like go out to the site and actually get hands-on?
We're not hands-on at all, but
Gotcha.
we have inspectors that will go out. So if I give you that $30,000 in our example before, if I give you that $30,000, once you start making repairs to your house, let's say you make $10,000 worth of repairs and you say, hey, Alex, I'd like 10 grand of that 30. I'll send an inspector out there to go look at it. They'll take pictures and give them back to me. And I'll say, yeah, you know what, Mellissa, you've done a great job. Here's your $10,000 to help you continue on with the project. So we do have our eyes on the property through the renovation process. And if we saw something, we would bring it up to the borrowers. A lot of our borrowers, I've gotten to know on a personal level, and they'll text me and be like, hey, or if they've got questions. Most of them are really good and they don't have questions. They've done it. This is how they make a living. But a lot of them will ask me questions and they'll call me and they'll text me. And so we're, passively a little hands-on, but we're not out there swinging hammers or anything like that.
Got you.
Yeah, but we're there. I keep coming back to partnership, and you may think of it already, but we are partners. Mark has like 25 plus years experience in Orlando doing investment properties, and I've got 12-ish, a little over 12 now. So we've got a wealth of knowledge, and one of our advantages is that we want to share that,
I appreciate that. Thanks for breaking things down for us. One of the things we pride ourselves on with our shows is like breaking things down for folks to be able to understand, particularly folks who are new to this industry and want to get into it. So definitely appreciate,
Yeah, sometimes it's a difficult concept, but if you go through it a few times, it starts to make sense. I remember when it was first explained to me, I'm like, huh? So how do you make money? But now it makes sense.
Gotcha. And one thing I did notice on your website is that you guys break down the different property types as it relates to different loans that you offer. So you talked about the advantages of single family, the advantages of multifamily homes, the advantages of commercial property. So just kind of break that down for our audience as well, like
Well, most
the
of our
advantages.
borrowers are single family.
Hmm.
Everyone that's getting into real estate is like, I want to do multifamily eventually, because for whatever reason, if you want to hold a rental portfolio, it's an easy way to acquire multiple rents versus single family. There's usually a natural progression from single family to multifamily. I don't mess around with commercial.
Okay.
Anytime over the 12 years of doing the investment stuff with Mark,
Hmm.
anytime somebody put a commercial building in front of you, you try to make it work, and it just never seemed to work out, so it's like commercial people, they run that world. I never stepped into that world. I just spun my wheels and it was never productive for me. So I leave that up to the commercial people, but single family, is usually where everyone starts.
Hmm.
And if you want to be a landlord, a lot of people progress to multifamily just because you can control more doors with, if I could go out to one property and there's 12 units, that's pretty nice versus going to 12 different houses. So from, the interest rates on multifamily are substantially lower versus single family investment properties. So some people get in for that reason too, but
Right.
you're dealing with multifamily, you're dealing with larger numbers. So you're going to have more capital to bring, so it's kind of like a lot of new investors that you talk to. I'm going to do single family. I'm going to make money. I'm going to build it. I'm going to build it. I'm going to build it. And then I'm going to buy a 10 unit, apartment building. Whether you ever get there or not, maybe not, but a lot of people, that's like their dream or their goal is to get to own multifamily.
Makes sense. Thanks for breaking that down. We're going to actually take another quick commercial break, guys. And we're gonna come back and talk some more real estate investment stuff, talk some more capital funding stuff for you guys, kind of flesh a few more things out, because this is good. This is good conversation, and we'll definitely get into it a little bit more in terms of the how the pandemic has affected the business. So, guys,
Okay.
stay tuned. We will be right back.
At Duke Energy, we deliver electricity and so much more, like free home energy assessments, rebates for energy-saving improvements, payment options to help you better manage your budget, and even bill credits for helping the community use less energy. So no matter what you're doing, we can help you make better energy choices every day. It's just another way we bring power to your life. How much can you save?
All right, guys, welcome back. We are with Alex Bogumil, founder CEO of Capital Fundings. So, talk a little bit about how COVID-19 has affected the real estate investment world, and how your business directly has been affected by it.
Yeah, COVID. I'm bad with my months, but COVID, was it maybe February it was starting to come through? We saw it in our office. We saw it coming, and before Orange County said let's shut down, maybe like 3 weeks before that, 2 to 3 weeks before that, I told everyone in my office, let's work remotely. Everyone has families. Everyone has kids. So we were kind of aggressive and progressive with that, and just said, let's not take the risk until we know what we're dealing with. But as far as the industry goes, and we're still working remotely, the girls kind of like it. So they come in here and there, and we try not to all come in at the same time, but we still are getting everything done. But as far as the real estate industry goes and the lending industry, it's created uncertainty. And with uncertainty, everyone is pumping the brakes because they don't know what they're getting themselves into. So one of my biggest investors that buys loans, who's a private investor, he's around maybe March, maybe even February, said, I'm not buying anything else right now until we understand what this is. all you saw is huge, massive unemployment claim files. And so everyone is like, what does this mean? Where are we going? Is this the end of the world? And on an institutional level, I got on a lot of conference calls and with a lot of industry leaders and stuff like that. And everybody was shutting down, institutions, private investors, everybody. Nobody was buying loans. The spreads with what they would buy them at were like, they went from 200 basis point spread to 800. So imagine your mortgage overnight going up 650 basis points. So if you have a mortgage at 4%, all of a sudden it's 10.5%.
Right.
So there was no business. So everything shut down and everybody was on hold, and everybody stayed on hold for a couple months. And then people recently started purchasing loans again, because that's really what keeps the cycle going. Anybody will make a loan, but can you sell that loan to get your capital back so you can make another loan? So there's a whole cycle. It's the same cycle in the housing industry outside of the investment world. A lot of refinance programs stopped for the residential house world. If you are not a traditional loan, you just weren't getting done. So everything stopped, everything paused. It's kind of coming back. I told you that we lend at 80%. Well, my biggest investor wants to lend at 70% now. So you're going to have to come to the table with $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 more than before. So that cuts a lot of people out of the game for right now. And that's across the board with a ton of investors that I know. They've just gotten more conservative because at the end of the day, if less people have jobs, where's the prices on houses going to go? So if I'm making a loan, assuming this house is worth $200,000, and in 6 months it's only worth $150,000 because nobody's buying houses, then I'm in trouble with my loan. I could be in trouble. So that's uncertainty. People don't know what's going on. They don't know when it's going to end. With the economy reopening, everybody was like, all right, we'll take some baby steps and get back to lending again the loan looks a little different, but we're actually lending. If you need money, we can get you money, maybe just not as much. And it may cost a little bit more. So now COVID's spiking again, especially here in Florida.
Right. I was going to ask you about that.
And depending on what news network you watch, it's either the end of the world or let's not worry about it because it's only affecting young people. So we don't know. There's a lot more uncertainty that's still going on. We're still lending into it right now, but we're being cautious. We're being very cautious. If you came to me and said, I've never done a deal, I don't know anything about real estate, except I went to I paid money for a conference or for an online education about it. And I probably wouldn't make the loan right now just because there's so much uncertainty out there. We just don't know what's going on. And until we get a little more clarity, it's going to continue to be that way. Now we've probably done 7, 8, 10 loans we'll do this month. So we're lending, and that's good because there were about 3 months where we weren't lending, and that's not good. So, but the market has continued to, it's continuing, because we manage a portfolio, or we service a portfolio of over 100 plus loans that we've made to our investors, and they have continued to pay off. So people are still buying houses. They've slowly, some of them that we're trying to keep them as rentals have gotten their properties refinanced, which it's taken a little bit longer, but it's happening. So the market's still out there. It's just a little slower, and it's changed a little. So you may not have the same terms as you did before, but it's still out there, and people still, if you have somebody that is an investor that, hey, this is how I make my living. Well, guess what? They need to keep renovating houses, and they keep coming to you asking for money. So there was a 2-month period where I didn't want to answer my phone because everything was are you lending? Are you lending? Are you lending? Are you lending? And I'm like, no, believe. And they're like, well, that sucks. And I was like, believe me, nobody knows that stinks more than me, you know? So it's been, it's been a process, but I think we're getting through it, but we don't know, we'll see. I think the next biggest challenge is when the kids come back to school, does that create more spread of COVID? And if that does, are some of these economies in different states and cities taking steps back, as like, maybe we should close. So we just kind of got to wait and see, but it's really affected everything. It's affected our business, our book of business. It's affected how we work. It's affected our personal lives. I mean, it's just, there's not one single aspect of life it has not touched.
Right.
So, I don't know about you. I'm ready for it to be done.
Me too.
But
I think we all are.
I'm like, every day, is there a vaccine? Is there a vaccine? Let's go.
Right. Absolutely. So wanted to also ask you, from the sound of things, your answer may be no, but was your company ever in a position to necessarily need to apply for any of the funding that became available for businesses, such as the PPP or even Orange County when they offered the small business grant through the CARES funding? Did you guys ever need to apply for that?
Well, we applied for PPP because I do have employees, and we went from originating 15 plus loans a month to zero. So our income was significantly affected for several months, and it still is significantly affected for several months. So we did apply for PPP. We didn't get it on the first round. On the second round, we did get it. So that has helped offset, the differential between our revenues and our expenses. So that was great. We're kind of through the PPP stuff. Recently, somebody told me about the Orange Cares program, and I applied for it. It's being reviewed, so we haven't gotten it yet. But Mark, my partner, he applied for it and he was approved. He hasn't got his check yet. But and then at the very beginning of this, I applied for something, and then somebody said, "Hey, you're approved," and all of a sudden $3,000 popped in my account. So I gave each $1,000, and they were thankful for that, and that helped them. But we've continued to pay salary. We haven't missed anything like that. But in my opinion, the government on a federal and a state and local level has done a pretty good job of putting money into people's hands, whether it's on the individual basis with the federal money, the $600 a week, whether it's on the PPP business, their loans, although some people that got them probably didn't need them, but which was really frustrating the first round. But I feel like the government's done a really good job of putting money into people's hands to help them with this, That's also another scary thing too, because a lot of the programs are running out right now. So everyone's on got their fingers in their mouth biting, what's next? What's coming next? Because people, we're out there. A lot of our investors that hold a lot of rental properties, people aren't paying rent. And how can they? Because their income has been slashed. But these people that are still paying their mortgage as investors that hold a lot, I've got a borrower that's got 70 plus investment properties that she rents out. And she said she's lost over $100,000 in income already, but she continues to pay her mortgages on those loans, or on the properties. So, it's kind of scary, and she can't do anything because there's a moratorium on evictions. So I think everyone's kind of asking themselves, what's next, because we're not fully opened. I just got my hair cut yesterday. My hairstylist said she's making about 60% of her income. So that's real. Everyone's being affected, and, I've been affected. Everyone I know has been affected. Now, I think some people that have are on the lower income, they've maybe benefited. I know a lot of girls that are getting paid more now with that federal assistance, but that's running out this month, So
Right.
each month we got to ask ourselves, what does this look like? And a lot of people, like we donated to the food harvest, and you do a little research and it's staggering the amount of people that are in need of food, so every month, rent hits every month, bills hit every month. And
Right.
so until there's a solution and people are back, it's a question you got to ask yourself, what's next what's next coming up? So yeah, the government's done good, but they're going to be under the microscope every single month. And, if people are struggling, they're not going to have a favorable, review of what's going on.
Exactly.
For us, we've been helped. We're thankful for it. But I think everybody would say, I would just much rather not take any money and go back to how we were before this all started. So.
Right. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're going to ask one more question before we take a commercial break. And we're going to get into some of the credit stuff a little bit. I wanted to touch back on that because you mentioned it a little bit earlier.
Okay.
On the website, it does say, the hard money loan you were saying, because it's more so focused on collateral or like an asset, credit isn't as big of a concern. I noticed one thing on the website, it does also provide an investor with the opportunity to build up their credit if they're starting off with a lower score. Kind of talk about how that works.
Well, for us, for us, it's kind of a trade-off. You can have really good credit, or you can have experience doing the investment properties. One of my best borrowers, who's done over $2 million in loans with me, has a credit score. Maybe it's over 600 now. It's not
Wow.
good. And I'm like, Miguel, you really got to change this, And he's like, I don't like credit cards. I don't use them. And I'm like, the guy, you're doing renovations on $30,000 renovations on all these properties at one time. You should have you should have an 800 credit score, because you should use your credit card, pay it off every month, and be amazing. So, but yeah, we do. Let me jump back to before all the COVID stuff. We do loans, especially to people that have experience. So for us, the credit isn't that important, but just in general, people don't realize about their credit because it affects them in so many ways. It can affect them in auto insurance. It affects them in housing. If you can't get a loan, you aren't going to buy a house, and you're going to stay renting, and you're not going to build equity, and you're not going to, generate wealth. Wealth generation is primarily driven through real estate. So, people that own their homes are at an advantage over time. So having a good credit score to qualify for a loan to buy a house is really, really important. So outside of the investing, a lot of people, I've got a young guy right now who's great. He's a real go-getter. And he's like, Alex, I'm going to get my credit up to 700. I got somebody working on it. So he realizes the importance of it, but he's putting his renovations on his credit card. And then he's like, as soon as I get the bill, I just pay it all off in full. And he's gone from the 500s to the mid 600s now, and he'll be at 700 very soon. So, we do pull credit reports for all of our borrowers. And, it just says something when you have a higher credit that it's important to you, and, you want to lend money to people that take pride in themselves and are going to take pride in their project. And it just adds a little bit of confidence and takes away a little bit of uncertainty about somebody as far as them completing the project and making money. And when you make money, you're probably going to improve your credit, because you can pay down debt if you have debt, or you can buy things and expand your credit, which is going to increase your credit score too. So being profitable on a project is one really good way to help increase your credit score.
Gotcha. And then you kind of touched on this before. How accessible is real estate investing to folks that are new to it? I know you were saying, like, for capital fundings, you guys aren't going to necessarily make a loan out to someone who's brand new to it. But just for knowledge for anyone that is interested in getting into it, maybe they didn't know much about it. We're in the middle of the pandemic, but they are ready to get started. Like, how accessible is real estate investing for somebody who's new to it?
Well, there are ways to buy properties. I mean, you do need some capital, but there are ways to buy properties where you don't need a down payment. Like if you found somebody that wanted to sell a property to you at a good price, you could purchase it with owner financing. Possibly, they may be willing to hold the paper for you, and you don't have to put anything substantial down. Just because you have to bring 20% to buy an investment property, you may not have 20%. It doesn't mean you can't. If you want to find a way, you'll find a way. One of the guy I was just referring to, my young borrower, who's a real go-getter, he's like, Alex, I form partnerships with people. They bring the 20%. I do the work. We split it, the profits. I've got my aunt who gives me money. She gives me the 20%. So this guy's a go-getter. He's a hustler. He has a vision. He's got his vision board. I've seen it. I'm going to get there, and he's not taking no for an answer. So he's found ways around him not having the 20%. He's running 2 to 3 projects at one time. So he doesn't have 2 to 3 times, 20% times 3 of all these properties, but he's found ways to get it done. You could also enter contracts, and if it's a really good deal, you could sell that contract to another investor and mark it up $5,000 or $10,000 and make, imagine if you just walked into a $10,000 payday one day, and then that may be your down payment going forward. So there are ways to do it, and they're out there. You can read books, you can do seminars, ways to where you can get into real estate with no money down. Now, does it help to have some capital? Absolutely. But we tend to think, I don't have it, so I can't do it. But there are ways to find it, talk to all your relatives. Somebody may have money. Meet people, go to organizations, meet people. Hey, I've got this. We should partner up. Partnerships are a way to do it, But I always refer back to this. I used to sell shoes back in the day.
Wow.
And the one thing that always stuck with me was Nike. Just do it. Like if you want to do it, just do it, because there's a way to do it. If you're not doing it, you're just accepting you can't do it, but there's a way to get it done. If you want to do it, you will get it done. So there are a lot of ways out there where you don't need capital and you can make really good paydays. The business that Mark runs, that was built on finding properties, marking them up, and selling them off to investors. And you make that markup, so if you're an individual, you could do that if you have access to maybe trying to find properties. I know people used to knock on doors. Hey, you want to sell your house? Oh yeah, what price?
Wow.
They would get business that way and make money. So there are ways. You just have to be creative. You have to think out of the box. You have to, in the end, you have to just want to do it, but the opportunity is there to do it.
Gotcha. That was another bar, y'all. make sure you write that down.
Knock on the door. You want to sell your house?
But yeah, that was a very important key point. Just make sure you find your way. Like if that's something that
people, I have a lot of new investors. We're not big on new investors today. That doesn't mean tomorrow everything changes, because everything is so fluid right now. But I have a lot of investors that come into the office and like, hey, we want to do this. We want to do this. We don't really have any money. And I'll sit there and I'll talk with them and I'll like try doing these things, and some of them will do them, some of them won't, but there are ways to do it. And a lot of that is reaching out to family, friends, people you went to school with, just to find that $20,000, $30,000. And when you start asking, you'd be surprised. Like there are people out there that have $20,000, $30,000 that want to make it more than $20,000 or $30,000.
Right.
So it's out there.
Awesome. So we're going to take another commercial break. And then when we get back, since we are in Orlando, I want to talk to Alex a little bit about his thoughts on the current housing situation that's going on here in Orlando and what his thoughts are on some solutions on how to repair that. So guys, stay tuned. We will be right back after this quick break.
We wanted to move back home to be closer to his family. We decided to go with pods because things were stressful enough.
We weren't sure how long we were going to need storage for, so we needed something that was flexible, and then they can deliver the container to wherever we move to.
We haven't found the perfect house yet, but we're still looking.
And we are back. Yeah, the commercial breaks are brief.
That's quick. I was like checking a text and I was like, oh, I'm back.
But yeah, I did want to make sure to talk to you about the current housing crisis that's going on in Orange County, because of course Orlando is in that and is affected with that. And I noticed that you recently started volunteering with Habitat for Humanity, excuse me.
I do a lot of that out in California, and I'm trying to get back into it here in Orlando.
Yeah, so I mean, give us your thoughts on what you feel would be helpful solutions to kind of alleviate the crisis that's going on right now.
It's so hard because, with capitalism, it's like people are out there to make a dollar, and unless it's subsidized, we don't have any inventory. Our inventory, I'm looking at, it's down to 6,500 units. That includes single family, condos, townhomes. 2 months ago, it was at 7,600 units for sale. So we don't have much out there. And then the one thing that did change, and it's kind of shifted all of the investments side of things, is that we had, after 2008, come like 2000, I don't know, maybe 13, 14, I can't remember the years, but we had a lot of institutional buyers come in that said, we're going to start buying up real estate and we're going to hold it as rentals. And we're going to realize the appreciation in real estate, because they recognize that housing was at probably an artificial low because there was just not much capital out there in the United States after 2008. So they jumped in and they started buying, and what they did is they bought and they held.
Right.
They're now the largest residential real estate holders in Orlando, in Orange County, in Florida, and a lot of other states too. So that's taking a whole chunk of inventory out of play, and it's there for rentals, not for sale. So some of them have started to get out of the game and started to sell everything, but that's because prices are so high and they're recognizing their profits. So, the median price for houses have just gone up and up and up and up. And Orlando is a great market for a lot of things, but for wages, it's not a great market. We don't have a ton of high paying industry here. We're primarily service based, and a lot of that sector has been left behind as far as wage increases. So you've got a big portion that's been shut out of the housing market. And as I just stated earlier, housing is one way to create wealth, especially, you buy a house, you pay it off, you pass it down to your kids. So it's generational type wealth that you can create through real estate. So to alleviate it, I used to work with a borrower he was a borrower also, but a home builder down in Point Siena, and he was building a lot of low income, I don't want to say low income, just affordable income housing that was under $200,000 down in Point Siena. But, that's not Orange County.
Right.
That's far away, and that's a growing community with not a ton of commerce down there just yet. So in Orange County, I don't have an answer. I mean, it's just the way, we saw that house that I was telling you about that was $30,000 is now $110,000, maybe 120, maybe 130. The prices just keep going up and up. And we're at this point where we've passed where we were in 2006, and people are like, oh, it can't go up anymore. But because there's such a low inventory, it's going up because people have to have a place to live. So it's kind of like, I don't know if it's artificial, but it is supply and demand here in Orange County. And that has created the prices to just continue to rise. So until there's more inventory, supply and demand is going to state the prices continue to go up. I don't know how they do the inventory. You do see a lot of condos, apartment complexes and stuff like that going up all around, even in the downtown area.
Right.
But, to say affordable, the only thing keeping it affordable right now are mortgage rates. They're at an all-time low. They're below 3%. So,
Right.
I was just in East Orlando looking at a house that after it's renovated, it's going to be worth $250,000, which seems like a crazy amount, but it does become a little bit more affordable now that rates are below 3%, or probably 3.25% for most people. 3.25% to 3.5%. So,
Right.
but if the economy shifts, rates are going to keep going up, and then prices aren't going to drop as quick. So to me, it's just the human nature of us, where it's like we hit this huge, and I'm not that old, so this was like the first real downturn I ever participated in was 2008, and then prices just continue to just skyrocket, and now it's like, oh, everyone's like, as soon as they drop again, I'm going to start buying. But when are they dropping?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, something will happen, I'm sure, but there's a lot of institutional investors out there too now that won't let those drops get to where they were before. Because I used to sell tons of houses, and I'm like, man, I wish I had about 20 of those at $30,000, but I didn't. And I don't know if you'll ever see that again. So I don't know when affordability comes. I know that we talked about, you see a lot of like newer houses at higher price levels. The only thing that excites me is that maybe there's more income coming into Orlando, because more higher paying jobs. You've got Lake Nona out there. That's like Orlando's little hidden secret, but there's a lot going on in Lake Nona,
Mm-hmm.
from the medical side. And it's bringing, I think their average household income is like $140,000, where Orlando is more like 60 something thousand dollars.
Right.
So, that is good. Let's bring some higher paying jobs in here. Let's, that aren't just service jobs where you've got to now hold 2 jobs and your spouse has to hold 2 jobs just to afford a mortgage. But, until then, it's going to, I don't have a solution. It's an interesting topic, and I haven't gotten into it that much, but it's really, it's something that needs to be addressed because, I have a house. I bought it at a low point.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, it's not my issue, but it's a serious issue for a lot of people.
Right.
We're buying a house, or an investor of mine is buying a house, and we went there thinking one person lived in it and 3 families were living in it, and, no one is putting 3 families in there because they want to. It's because
Right.
they have to, so, we'll see. I'm open to ideas. It'd be an interesting topic to understand more.
And speaking of, understanding more, where can people find out more about you and Capital Fundings?
Yeah, so we have our website. It's actually Cap Fundings. Somebody was holding us hostage for the Capital Fundings website, and I didn't want to pay that. So I think you put it up there now, CAP Fundings, FUNDINGS.com. You can go there. You can learn about us. There's an apply now button. Our borrowers actually go to the website too, and they make escrow draw requests. We can provide proof of funds for purchases. And if you want to pay off your loan, you can do it all through the website. But if you want to learn about us, go to the website. You can Google us at Capital Fundings, type in Capital Fundings Orlando, and you'll read our Google reviews. We've got 40 plus 5-star Google reviews. There's one person that gave me a bad review, and I don't even know who they are. It's like somebody scorned. But read the reviews, and then my cell phone, I believe, is on the website, and I've got people calling me, texting me all the time. I know you is like, oh, what's something you really enjoy about your job? And I was like, and I started thinking about it, I was like, like when an investor of mine texts me at like 9:30 at night, pictures of their renovation, and they're so excited, or, hey, I just got a contract, and they're texting me that, and it's really cool, like to share in their excitement and their successes. So that's fun, and that's that's one thing that I do. Being a small business, I'm available, so you can actually, if you're getting a loan from us, you're dealing with me, and that's hopefully a good thing.
Awesome. And then, lastly, just kind of talk about, we had a little kind of video bomb earlier, but talk about, just the significance of, doing that grind, that hustle for your kids, and how does your work kind of affect them? Are they paying attention to what you do? Do they aspire to do what you're doing? Kind of talk about
well, I've got an 11-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I bring them to a lot of properties. They've seen a lot of properties on everywhere in Orlando. They've walked through a lot of houses. I just was renovating a house in College Park, and there were no floors, and they were down in there running around on the dirt inside the house, and they thought it was the coolest thing. So, it's not like I'm sitting them down saying, you're going to do this. But it's cool exposure. We go into a lot of different areas of Orlando, so they get to see all sorts of, we live in Dr. Phillips, and, they get to go outside of that little bubble and see how the rest of Orlando lives. And they get to see houses that need a ton of work. And, my 11-year-old's asking questions now, like, oh, what do you do here? What is this? What is this? The 6-year-old's he wants to run through every single house we look at. But I bring him along, especially now, with the homeschooling, and if I've got something to do and I've got to be somewhere, they hop in the car. So it would be really cool. I've always felt like at around maybe 15, I would love for my sons to do a renovation project over the summer. So maybe they could make some money and see, like, okay, you work, you make a little bit of money, and then you get to enjoy that money, just as kind of like a summer project, but they're not there yet, but they are, they are very active in the business, whether they know it or not.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much.
If I pick one, the older one, I think will do something. The younger one,
probably.
Interesting. So who knows what that guy's going to do? So we'll see.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did want to thank you for taking the time to join us here on Business Talk, and the door is open. So if there are any updates, announcements going on with capital fundings,
yeah, let's stay in touch. I really appreciate the opportunity. It's been fun chatting with you and getting to know you as well too.
Absolutely appreciate it. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Alex Bogumil. That is how it's pronounced, Bogumil, with Capital Fundings. Be sure to go to their website if you want to find out more information. It is www.capfundings.com. Make sure you include that S, because there is another capital funding that is out there. So
include the S.
Include the S, just to make sure that you find them. Now, thank you so much, Alex. Appreciate you. Stay backstage. We'll, just kind of throw things out.
All right. Thank you so much.
No problem. All right, guys. So that does it here for us at the Business Talk, the FNN Business Talk. You'll see me again at 5 p.m. today, bringing you the evening news rundown, guys, because of course it is Wednesday. So I'll be here with the evening news rundown. And the great news for today is that since it is Wednesday, Angel Perry will be back with the hashtag Worker Wednesday. We'll be talking some more news talk, particularly having to do with the schools, given the recent lawsuit that is going on with the Florida Education Association. So we'll have that conversation. So be sure to tune in and get that conversation on, get your news briefing per usual. Now, if you haven't yet, be sure to like us, follow us, subscribe. You can find us at Florida National News on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. So like, follow, subscribe. And if you're on YouTube, be sure to click the bell so you get all of the notifications. And if you are a small business owner, we welcome your advertisements. If you need a platform to go ahead and place your advertising, we do have 5 shows that we run on our network. So be sure to email ads@floridanationalnews.com to find out more. We would love to have that conversation with you and get you started with us. In the meantime, take care. Have a great rest of your afternoon, and I will see you at 5 p.m. Take care.